Welcome to the library. This evening we are discussing the future of public libraries. We have a wonderful panel of leaders, and we're going to be looking at what public library look like today and what are the possibilities moving forward. We invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this program.
Leaders of the Vermont State Colleges updated lawmakers today on its troubling financial situation. VSC says a controversial decision to get rid of paper books in libraries and restructure athletics is part of the plan to trim $5 million this year.
It's really going to become the best of both worlds.
The colleges will move from physical books to online resources at all of its main locations. However, the library spaces will stay open for studying, and it will be staffed if students have questions.
Better together. That's the hope from Vermont State University leaders as they celebrate the official unification today.
Full-time faculty members took a vote of no confidence in university leadership at all levels. Now, members tell me the decision to make the libraries all digital went against wishes of faculty, students, and community members, and they say university leaders aren't willing to compromise.
These are disastrous changes, and we're going to protest them all the way.
We wanted to focus it on campus identities. Since we have announced these two decisions, it has become more of a question answering session.
I do want it to be noted that today's meeting is being held while my colleagues are teaching.
And I just wanted to make you aware of how ableistic this decision you're making is.
A good college library is the keystone and the intellectual stronghold of an area.
Gotta be honest with you, you got a lot of people upset. A lot of people really not pleased with the decision.
We need more books, not less. Why can we not have both a digital system and libraries full of physical books?
I just want to say that I think it's insane. We have to beg you not to take away our library.
And the sub-team is not involved in this decision to eliminate the print collection.
The zero-sum game that you have created here by going for all of one thing in lieu of the other was a poor decision.
This is a rhetorical question because I do feel that I know the answer, but I want to know why they are up there and why the chancellor is not, why the VP of
history of the town of Castleton.
I'm forced to do every single thing online that we
need and are expected to have some of the physical resources of the library.
That I don't believe were a part of the decisions and the continuous decisions that are causing such frustration and upset.
Thank you everyone for coming. Share your, I'm going to say, reactions to the library's decision.
It's not the library.
Yeah, decision about the library, let's say that. Yeah. I'm also deeply humiliated. Yeah, I know I should. I should be deeply humiliated. And you have accomplished that goal. Absolutely you have.
Vermont as a whole struggles with this idea of progressiveness and being really open and accepting, but not necessarily educated on how to do that best. And then we have another part of Vermont that is extremely racist. And I think we get a mix of that here, as you do on most campuses, you know, where a lot of blended cultures and communities. And I think there were a lot of students that wanted to be open and accepting to him, just didn't know how, and a lot that were extremely racist towards him. I don't think that Castleton was as welcoming as it could have been, but I think it was a good reflection of our campus climate and where we are.
Vermont State University students, faculty, and staff. I'm writing to share with you 2 major transformation decisions that have been made regarding athletics and our libraries. In making these decisions, our goal is to strengthen and expand access to our athletics offerings and provide greater equity of access to our library services. Libraries serve a crucial role in the academic life of a university. That is why I announced Vermont State University's new all-digital academic library effective July 1st, 2023. We listened to our students as we made this decision. We will transform the physical libraries to respond to what works for students today and best supports them holistically on their educational journey. This change will eliminate a small number of positions on our campuses. We recognize the service, dedication, and expertise they have brought to our campuses, and we are grateful to them. Thank you for your continued patience, dedication, and hard work as we move toward opening a new university. Yours, Parwinder.
Tuesday, with the email that had gone out very late in the day, it had talked about the sports and how we were going to be moving to an all-digital library. And so I immediately texted a screenshot of that to like a small group of students and friends and said, like, is this for real? If so, literally I said, I'm going to riot.
I was one of the few that actually received the survey for the library. The survey was out of probably 500 people, but that was across all of the campuses, not just Castleton. There was only about 130 people from Castleton that actually responded to the survey out of however many Castleton students there are.
Everyone started to kind of realize that it was real, that there was mention of donating all the books and repurposing the library. Thursday, I met with Ava and a couple other people in the library, and I said, what can we do? We started making posters, going around. We printed flyers, just trying to get people in and trying to engage the community because we found it unacceptable for what the initial plan that we were given was, which was an all-digital library with the space being repurposed.
There's different ways to combat the decision potentially and making our voices known. And I said, well, why don't we just all walk out of classes and make a big fuss about it?
We've all been, kind of charged with working on how we're going to merge the library system for months, years. There are a lot of really good things that are coming out of this as far as like having one really good website, having all the instructional librarians in the whole system contribute to instructional materials. And my colleague Miranda's been on the sub-team, they've called it, which is the group representing the different libraries working on the plan. She had no idea that this was happening.
At least within the library sub-team itself, I was not aware of pressures to move to an all. Actually, I should say I was completely unaware of any pressure to move to a completely digital library. That the president's plan, when it was announced, was a complete surprise to everybody on the team.
Obviously it's been, personally really painful because a lot of people who I'm really close to were laid off as part of this plan. The people making the decisions really aren't listening to the professional expertise of our staff and are kind of making decisions that aren't well informed and don't really understand the full context and implications of the decisions.
We were repeatedly reminded of the obligation to save money and to help with the system meeting its mandate from the legislature. Our libraries across all campuses were struggling with having enough staff, with having enough funding even before this started.
And at first I didn't even believe it. I thought it must be a joke or a misunderstanding. And then I came into work and my boss had been crying. They had barely 15 minutes warning before the rest of the campus knew.
We were all kind of shocked. And they brought the human resources director here, who we'd never met before, to come meet with the people who were, getting layoff notices.
So I started researching other ways people saved their libraries, and I went up to my boss, Stephanie, and said, we're not going to just let this happen.
We got the survey results. It was really a superficial, brief survey. They didn't really ask the students the questions that would, determine whether this was actually what they wanted. I thought that was really disingenuous.
Yeah, we need some more up around. Today we're not quiet. Oh, no. You're a
here as a sit-in protest because Castleton University wants to take away not all of the books, but most of the books and turn us into a digital library.
I'm here because this isn't the Castleton that I came for. I want to try to make a difference.
We need books. They open up a whole new world for people. Going digital, we can't see how many people have read them. We don't see the journey.
We are rolling out the new improved survey for our students. Unlike the Canvas survey that was hidden during the beginning of finals when students are their most stressed, we will have the ability to get students' input throughout the semester.
Sometimes people think faculty, we're here to teach, and especially in physical education, we might not come across as scholars, but what libraries have been able to provide to me in my development matters. This is a process that we're quickly losing, and to be able to lose this ability to work with librarians, to dive into books, to decide if you want to use them or not, we need these opportunities.
Professor of biology here at Castleton, also the biology program coordinator, and my bigger role for 2 years now is president of the faculty assembly. All those roles I just told you, you would think that I would have heard a little something about what was coming. I got the email the same time as every other person in the system. So when that email hit my inbox, I was as dumbfounded, I think, as anyone.
Key stakeholders in decision-making were not invited to the table, and when you make significant decisions for people and they're not at the table, that's a patriarchal approach, and students should be angry about that. I can tell you, faculty are.
The decision itself was disturbing. You're attacking the very core of what higher education stands for with a decision like this. And so that's why it's embarrassing.
I'm embarrassed to be associated with this university after this decision. And this is not a threat or an ultimatum, but I cannot stand up at an admission event and tell families to come here if this decision stands.
Immediately the day after, this made national news in national educational publications. And what I got was texts and emails from colleagues across the country saying, this is where you work, right? That's embarrassing.
I hope that students here at Castleton and across our state and our community members and our faculty continue to be able to have these memories that make a lifetime. It's going to be different.
Dear Vermont State students, faculty, and staff, I want to apologize about how our messaging about the athletics and libraries decisions came out this week. We needed to talk with individuals directly impacted by the decisions. Timing was delayed, and the message and evening meeting invitations came out too late in the day. I am sorry. The Vermont State University senior leadership voted to be bold and embrace an all-new digital library. What the cabinet didn't vote to do was close the libraries. The digital generation is coming through the door, and we need to be prepared to serve them well, with full access for everyone. These decisions are not about achieving immediate financial savings. They are going to move us forward on a path of sustainability. I stand behind the decisions, but these decisions are not the end of the story. They are the beginning. Thank you, Parwinder.
You judge the quality of an educational institution by the quality of its library. They don't seem to care.
Students are already leaving. I myself will transfer if this goes through. Because as it stands right now, if I leave here because there's no library, I won't be recommending this school. If we can turn this around, I'll be going to my friends and being like, look what we did. This is a great school, a great community. You want to be part of that.
That's our goal.
I'd love to say that I have some great news, or really any news at all, but the board hasn't convened. I don't know if there's going to be an emergency meeting. I don't know if there's going to be any sort of discussion about this. That has not been something that has been communicated.
My constituency, both as student trustee, as president of the SGA, as not necessarily as assistant box office manager, but in all the positions I serve, my constituency is the student body. And if I'm not here for the student body physically, I'm not doing my job.
I have been, however, in communication with the president, the chancellor, and the chief academic officer since everything has happened. So They are getting our messages, they are hearing everything that's being said, but I don't know exactly what the next steps are from an administrative standpoint.
By the end of today, the SGA will issue a formal statement. We address what we believe are the 5 greatest concerns or needs for our student body in that statement.
I brought it to NAACP, and a lot of other members had already seen the email and were outraged. We wanted to talk about accessibility and how that disproportionately affects marginalized communities. We wanted to really reflect on why we're writing the statement, what we intend to say, and how it ties back into NAACP as a whole. A lot of us did attend the rally, and we did attend the meeting and listen to what a lot of students said before we put out our statement, trying to get a general idea of what the students want, and a lot of us aligned with what everyone else was saying.
One of the things that really seems to tie all of them together is student involvement in the planning process. We're the ones who are paying the bills. We need to have a seat at the table consistently. This is something that the president and I talked about, and he was even frustrated. He expressed frustration for the transformation process that he somewhat inherited, not having students at the table that he could talk to. We make it clear in our statement that from this point on, this was a sign. We need to have students at every decision.
The students are the ones that we all work here for, or we should be here for. You are the ones that are not only paying the money to go here, but our goal is to educate you. I think the students at all the campuses have been just ignored and dismissed. We had a meeting with faculty from Castleton, the Johnson campus, the Linden campus, in both the Randolph and Williston campuses of VTC. The decision alone is enough to warrant the vote of no confidence in many faculty members' minds. But as I said, the answer to it since is equally as disturbing. There has been an absolute lack of leadership from the top down since. It's just further eroded our confidence in any of the leaders that we currently have.
Over the last 2 weeks, we have seen an outpouring of voices concerning Vermont State University's announcement regarding changes to the libraries and athletics. We value passionate public discourse and diverse viewpoints. To be clear, Vermont State University is not closing its libraries, nor is it closing any of 5 residential campuses. The state expects the Vermont State Colleges system to bring together the residential institutions into a single, multi-campus hybrid university, and that the transformation results in the elimination of the $25 million structural deficit within 5 years. Maintaining the status quo is not an option. The library's decision is not simply about cutting costs, although it does seek to reduce the disproportionate cost of maintaining the physical collections given their current usage. Let us strive to communicate thoughtfully and respectfully with each other as we work together on system transformation and towards a successful launch of Vermont State University. With best wishes, Sophie.
Our leadership made 2 decisions, both with devastating consequences to our campuses, and then went on a listening tour where they have dug in their heels and where we see no evidence of listening with the intent to really hear what our students are saying.
You got so many kids from different areas that's bringing different cultures to this campus. Not just the Johnson, you got VTC, you got Castleton. You got different campuses out here that has different variety and diversity of kids that wants to be here. And the kids that are here are making a change in Vermont. And now you're forcing us out.
Physical library is not a privilege, it's my right. My documented disability requires accommodations by the ADA and Section 504. Paper materials are one of my accommodations. This denial of accommodations is unprecedented.
Let's take a look at the American Library Association guidelines, the Library Code of Ethics. This decision by the President, the Chancellor, the Board, runs counter to 6 out of 8 of those Code of Ethics.
VSU's decision claims to make the library's books more accessible, but in reality, this decision makes them less accessible to students like me. The VSU has decided to remove those books, and they're not going to collect any sort of monetary value from getting rid of them. They will be throwing away a resource that has been paid for by generations of VTC and VSU students.
We understand that they are the ones who ultimately make the decisions. What we are asking for today is that they take into account the needs of the people who are most impacted by those decisions. We want the hard choices to be directed away from our student experiences, and we want you to center the needs of our students, and especially our rural students, our BIPOC students, our students with disabilities, first-generation students, low-income students, and student athletes. These are the students, these are the reason we exist as an institution, and we are here to serve them.
When the vision of a transformed Vermont State University becomes reality, we will have increased access to our educational programs for all. Change is uncomfortable, but the fact is, change is necessary. It is necessary for us to be educationally relevant, accessible, and affordable. It is also necessary to achieve the financial sustainability that has long eluded us. I have heard from many of you over these past several weeks and appreciate the time and effort it took for you to make your voices heard. Even as we transition to a hybrid university with a digital library, our library spaces will continue to be the heart of our campuses. This change to library operations is estimated to achieve $500,000 in ongoing annual savings. We are communicating with stakeholders, including our employees and their unions. I pledge to be more inclusive as this work moves forward, and I look forward to working with you all. Parwinder Graywall.
I'm going to call this meeting to order. We have a quorum of the trustees, and so we would like to get started. We thank you all for coming. We have a good crowd here, and we will have public comment.
Cutting $5 million a year for 5 years is not possible and keep every campus open. Instead of being honest with the legislature and saying we can't do this and keep Vermont State College system open, you're killing us with 1,000 cuts, and then you won't have any choice. We'll be all digital.
I want to make it clear to the people when we talk about this 5 million difference, it's not cutting. It can also be from investing and increasing enrollment. We cannot cut anymore. We are losing students because of this.
I'm going to use some iPads data here because you used iPads data to justify, at least in part, your decision to go digital for the library. I will use the same data to show why this is a mistake. 1,911 institutions who reported, only 21 reported they had a digital-only library. 20 of the 21 institutions that reported that are only online institutions. We don't have a library problem in Vermont State University. We have an administration problem.
The administration is ignoring the biggest financial problem that exists, which is the over-administration. We have 788 non-faculty and 243 faculty. The non-faculty make up 74% of the institution, and I looked at salaries greater than $100,000, and we had 34 positions 2 years ago, 40 positions last year, and 52 this year. In the chancellor's office alone, we went from 6 to 11 to 17. That does not sound like a reduction.
Trust the faculty, trust the students, trust the staff, trust the librarians, trust the community, and have the humility, please, to completely rescind this plan. We don't fear change per se. We fear misguided change will ruin the institutions that we love.
Do you know that right now students are experiencing extreme mental health issues related to the recent decisions about libraries and athletics? Do you understand that faculty and staff are a huge part of our student support system?
I am not opposed to technology, but I am opposed to the destruction of our university step by step, and it seems insidious to start with the destruction of the libraries, which is the heart of the university. Thank you.
Dr. Parwinder Graywall has tendered his resignation and is stepping down effective immediately for personal reasons. Dr. Graywall brought his skills and expertise, and we appreciate his service. We are pleased to announce that the Board of Trustees has named former Vermont Agency of Human Services Secretary Mike Smith to serve as interim president. He will begin next week for a term of approximately 6 months and will be focusing all efforts on the successful launch of Vermont State University. The Board of Trustees and I have asked interim President Smith to pause implementation of the proposed initiatives around athletics and libraries, pending development of a comprehensive set of recommendations for continued transformation work in the coming weeks. Strong communications, engagement, and collaboration will be our ongoing focus. Please join me in thanking Dr. Graywall for his service and in welcoming interim President Smith. With best wishes, Sophie.
President Graywall was not the problem.
I don't think the problem is solved at all. He was one of few people in the administration that took the time to sit and listen. I think he would have been a really valued person for the students, and I wish that more students had the opportunity to meet him and learn more about him. I think they felt it was necessary to have him take the fall for a lot, but I don't think that he had any control over it.
I'm actually more concerned now because we don't have an educator who will be coming in. We don't have a person who has worked with students and understands that part. And they're appointed by the Board of Trustees, which is who we have no confidence in.
I mean, this has been a very uncertain time for us for a long time, and I think we can expect more of that with this new interim president.
We were actually trying to just look and see what the numbers were for how much money was spent for salaries for the chancellor's office, for each campus. And this is something called a profit loss statement. Sort of the overall view of what are the costs of the Vermont State colleges and what are the revenue sources. There are a few things that jumped out that concerned me greatly and made me wonder if maybe we could do better with the money than getting rid of the library, for example. So the first thing was that half of all the money from the state goes to the chancellor's office. That's about 5 times any of the individual campuses. They're receiving $32.5 million out of the total of $67.8 million. And it looks like in the data for salaries that there are a number of chancellor's office individuals who are actually charged and listed under campuses instead. So if you look at what they list for their salaries, it says $1.5 million, but the salary should be $5 to $6 million, depending on whether you count those people that were hidden. So the last one is this category called expenses, chancellor's office. And you see a number here, and it says $9.4 million profit. So the chancellor's office had a revenue in the cost category, and the campuses were charged for it. So I wrote them. I asked the general counsel, Patty Turley, how can you have a profit in the cost category? And she said, yes, those are costs that were charged to the chancellor's office, but are actually campus expenses. So we got revenue for it. So this is really troubling when you think about the library decision, $500,000 that we've never actually seen any data for, when there's millions of dollars being hidden or mistakes. Either one is equally troubling.
I think this is typical of big businesses and our education system becoming businesses and not just places for students to get an education.
I think people are so focused on trying to convince leadership that libraries are important that to me it's like, forget that. They are important. But there's no numbers to even suggest it saves money. If you lose 1% of student enrollment because you announced you're closing the libraries, and that's pretty conservative, right? That 1% of students won't want to be here at a school that has no libraries. That costs more. That's more loss in revenue than the $500,000 of savings.
It's difficult to know where decisions are being made and by whom. And I would really be curious about when this decision was made to go to an all-digital library and by whom. You'll see if when you read 7 Days, the article in there, President Spiro suggests that the decision was made even before the merger was proposed.
The president and chancellor are unviable. Digging in the blunders, they're unpliable. Now students don't see us as a pliable. BOT, turn the knob. It's ultimately you who is liable to preserve the colleges as viable. The board's authorities complete and full. BOT, do your job, please. Come on, BOT, it's rectifiable. Let's not hate Deloitte's ovaries. Vermont needs you now unpacified. Vermonters are so gullible. Their wayward sell us out, it's undeniable. DOT, stop the mob. They treat in-state experts as discountable.